Bailey Morgan, welcome to the show. This is the whole podcast. We just like hang out on a Zoom call and talk about you so that my audience can get to know you a little bit more. And the reason why I started this podcast is there's so many artists that I was meeting, and it was like always in passing or on social media, and there'd be like a little bit of a conversation, and then we'd move on. But I'm like, there's so many talented people out there that I'm like, I would love to like sit down with them, talk with them. And then as I grow an audience, I'm just exposing my audience to you. And so there's new fans that are crossing over. So it's been cool. And it's been cool getting
Yeah,
to know Nicole and interviewing everybody off of Brickshore for sure.
awesome. I love it.
Yeah, so let's start with your word. Your word was resilient for the podcast. Why did that word come to mind for you?
I think the word resilient, I kind of coincide that with like the word fire. I think growing up, I've always wanted to do music, especially in a small town. It wasn't, I guess, as prevalent growing up to do country music and just kind of do the music thing, period. So
Hmm.
I was kind of maybe a big fish in a smaller pond, or at least I felt like that. Then moving to Nashville, everyone here does the exact same thing,
Yeah, that's gotta be
which is
tough.
great. It's good to have community and stuff, but much bigger pond here. So I think resilient because I in music in general, you get a lot of no's, right? A lot of doors
Mhm.
are, shut on you, and that can make you really easy just be like, you know what? Maybe it's not for me, and just kind of throw in the towel. For me, there's never been a plan B. There's been a plan to pay my bills until this works out, but there's no plan B for me. So I think I've always been resilient and just kind of keeping it going. Even if a door shuts, there's got to be another way to open a door. Especially, going through, I went to Belmont and then graduating outside of college, just kind of continuing the music thing. There's still that fire in me, and it's always kind of just been there. And I've always had that resilience to kind of keep going, even if
Yeah.
there's that are shut. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's like directly linked to people who are like actually passionate about something. And I,
Mhm.
I try explaining this to people because I've been doing stand-up comedy since I was like 19, and
Oh,
I've wanted to do comedy since I was like 10 years old. Like it's always been in my brain of like something that I wanted to do. Same thing, like smaller city. So I didn't know like how do you become a comedian? Like it didn't make sense to me. Like I'm
right.
sure the same thing with you. You're like, I guess I just sing and then somebody will be like, "Do you want a record deal?"
Yeah. I
Like you have
know.
no idea. Like you think like it's a Disney show. Like this is how it's gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
But I always say to people who are like still looking for a passion, I'm like, it's one thing to find something that you really enjoy. It's another thing to keep doing it when it sucks. When you
Hmm.
hit those days where you're like, why did I choose this path for myself? Like, why did I willingly go down one of the hardest things to do, like break into the entertainment industry and not be a Nepo baby? Have nobody like an uncle who, did A&R for Guns N' Roses, and now I get to like, you know, get a studio session or whatever. And
Yeah.
um, I had Barry Katz on my podcast, and he's like a big comedy manager. He managed like Dave Chappelle and Louis
Oh,
C.K.,
wow.
Dane Cook, and Whitney Cummings early on, and a ton of the biggest names in the industry. And he was telling me, I can't remember whose house he was at, but he was at this. Um, it's killing me. It's this big like female celebrity. She's older now, and her daughter is getting into music. She was like an actor. Was it Gilda? I don't know. But he said, that's amazing that your daughter is getting into entertainment. What's some advice that you would give to her? And she said, well, early on when she told me she wanted to be in music, and she said, I could get you the greatest studio band. I could get you in front of having showcases in front of like the most amazing people that would launch your career to the stratosphere. I could get you like a record deal easily. I could buy you all of the best guitars. I could do all of these things for you. But the one thing that I can't do for you is give you struggle. I
Mm,
can't give you that thing, that resilience that great artists just have innately because they had to push through those hard times. They had to have traumatic moments that they lived through in their life that they then parlay into a song or like move on. Like I interviewed an actor named Adam Beach, and both his parents died at 8 years old. Imagine
Mm,
being 8 years old. You get moved to a completely different city, and now there's like family members watching you. And every time he said somebody would see him, they'd start crying because he looked so much like his dad. And he's like, so now I'm 8 years old and there's people crying at me. And he had all of this trauma and he ended up becoming a really great actor because that was
wow.
his way of sort of detaching and like dealing with that trauma. And
Mhm.
I really think as sad as it is to say, you kind of need that struggle in order to become a great artist. I don't think you can manufacture it without it.
I think so too. I think being an artist, I mean, you have to either have a thick shell or develop one. So, being resilient, kind of keeping it going and just being like, this passion is so just alive for me. And no matter what, I mean, even playing in Nashville, you play like around for maybe two people, and those two people are your parents. You're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
thanks, mom and dad. But
Yeah,
this kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
you're playing songs that you're so passionate to perform in front of, and there's no one listening, and you'll play to bigger crowds. I do a lot of writers rounds where maybe there's like 100 people, and that's amazing. But I play to my parents, and that definitely can be like, oh, that sucks. But I think for a lot of artists and just people in the entertainment industry, you can't just hang up your hat after one like disappointing moment, because there's probably going to be a lot of them, and that doesn't
Hmm.
define who you are, or your artistry. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. And now you moved to Nashville at 15. Bold
Mhm.
move. At 15 to be like, let's go to Nashville. Were there any
Yeah.
moments where I know we were kind of talking about it a little bit, but were there moments where your resilience was like tested and you had to kind of learn these things as you were going?
High school. Yeah. I think that was the big test, was high school. So growing up, I'm from Oklahoma, a really small town. My parents were like, okay, this is not where she's gonna hone her music. Clearly, this is a big passion for her. I'm an only child. My parents are the most amazing parents on the planet. They quit their jobs, moved me to now.
Wow.
Had no plan. We lived in a Best Western for like 3 weeks until we found a house. Like, we just knew nothing. So I think that was definitely a test, living in a Best Western like motel outside for me. But then just going and straight into high school, I mean, big freaking pond. I go from a small town Oklahoma to a big city in Nashville, just like massive high school, middle of freshman year. And I'm just like, what? Yeah, it was awful. No, it was,
And it's like some of your most awkward years is like that 15, like 16. You're just in the middle of puberty, just like,
yeah.
what is happening?
My style was
Oh,
not developed. I mean, yeah. So just plot me in a high school. I don't know anyone. So
right.
that was an adjustment. And then just realizing like you're gifted, but like so is everybody else. I think
Mm,
that was also just kind of a come to Jesus. Is like, okay, you're gonna have to put in some work. You're gonna have to own and hone in on your skills. Um, so I think my resilience was tested all of high school basically, and then uh, college, kind of going into that, and I've gotten a lot of no's, I think, as my sound has developed. And so kind of just keeping on the path, just kind of having that drive, that will to want to be an artist.
yeah. And want to do it like full time and wanted
Mm-hmm.
to, travel and do all those things that comes along with that too is
Yeah.
that to me is like so much. It's worth fighting for. Any of the bad moments, you're like, yeah, but the end goal is incredible. Like
Yeah.
not having a boss and playing music for a living sounds amazing. Like,
Not,
but
I gotta have a little money somewhere in
yeah,
there,
sure.
bills, but yeah, sign me up. I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's the dream for a lot of people, even in comedy, like just getting to do that forever. Like, okay,
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
I would work for an hour a day
Yeah.
on the weekends, you know? Like
Yeah.
1 hour at night is when I have to be on stage, yeah, doing my thing. That sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah. That sounds
And
amazing.
everybody's excited to see you. It's like, yeah, that's definitely worth fighting for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about your new single. It's called NASCAR Track. What inspired the title and sort of maybe tell us the story behind it?
Yeah. So NASCAR track is a little bit deceiving. You know, you think NASCAR. I do not watch sports. Well, I do a little bit. I go for the snacks, right? But I'm not like a diehard, avid sports watcher. I don't really watch NASCAR. Now I do because I have a song called NASCAR Track. But the song idea actually came. I was just thinking. I used to be in the dating pool back in the day, the streets of Nashville, and it's about a breakup, kind of reminiscing, but it's not a sad breakup song or like a I did something bad, he did something bad. It's just kind of a reminiscing song.
Hmm.
I had an ex that used to drive their car super fast down, busy streets, and not condoning that, but I had the idea, do you drive your Chevy like a race car, blowing through streets like a NASCAR track? And I was like, okay, that might be something. That might be something cool. And then I had some of the verse started in the song, and then came to the writing room that day and was like, hey, I have this idea. Not married to it. If you guys hate it, we'll toss it out the window. And they were like, no, we actually like kind of like this. And then there's just some magic in that room, and NASCAR track was born.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like writing lyrics is one of the most, it's so different than joke writing. During COVID 2020 to 2022,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't perform comedy anywhere. They wanted me to do like parks and on Zoom calls, and I was like, I need the live, like I can't do that. So I started writing like I wrote a hip hop album, and I started writing lyrics and trying to be funny in that way, right? Like maybe I'll write it through music. And that process of like churning out lyrics and churning out hooks of just, for me, it was like listening to the track first, and then you're sort of just mumbling, and then a phrase or something, or you'll be thinking about a memory, and then like a phraseology, like you're talking about, clicks in. Is that how
Yeah.
you typically write your lyrics? Do you start from like, um, I guess a melody per se, and then work your way into like what sort of words are forming. Let's build a story around that.
I would say it's 50-50. It really just depends on the write. When I write by myself, normally I have some fragment of a verse or chorus already started. Maybe I'm in the car and I just think of something, and so I'll write it in my notes or voice memo something. Or I think of a melody and I voice memo it, and then I'm like, okay, I like this. Let me write some words to it.
Hmm.
I would say I'm most comfortable starting with the lyric first. And then I feel like I can grab my guitar or get on the keyboard and find a melody to it. I feel like for me, that's easier.
Hmm.
But I do love writing to melody. I love writing to a track sometimes. But I would say I'm most comfortable with lyric
Yeah.
first. Yeah.
Yeah, I think lyric should always be first, just because it is that undeniable part of the song where you're like, you could do this stripped down, you could do it acoustic, you could do it with just piano, and it's still gonna hit in a different way, you know? Like you see, Kelly Clarkson is the best at that.
Mm-hmm.
She'll on her show, she'll just do a cover of a song, and she's coming through so clearly that you're like, oh, I'm hearing the words for the first time in this song. Like I'm actually hearing what it's about, because before you're all caught up in the melody of like a new pop song or something, and then you're hearing the actual lyrics in her singing, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like it always stands the test of time, no matter what.
It doesn't hurt that Kelly Clarkson is like the best singer on
One
the
of the best singers ever. Yeah, for sure. Might give her a little bit of an edge, but yeah. It really
yeah.
speaks to that though, that lyrics are
Lyrics
like,
are forever. I
yeah.
think people gravitate towards first listening to a song. I especially do. I think lyrics are the most important part of a song. Pop, you can have something repetitive, but I like lyrics that literally cut, and you're like, oh, okay.
You're like,
That
I
just
feel
hit me
that. Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
I love it. Now, like being from Oklahoma and spending like a majority of time there, like 15 years is not an insignificant amount of time.
Mhm.
Not conscious for the first five, probably, but 10 years of consciousness in in Oklahoma. And now
Yeah.
you're in Nashville. Like, how do you find those two worlds like influence your music?
Yeah, I think in Oklahoma, I grew up on a lot of like 90s. I'm a 90s baby, 90s country. A lot of Oklahomans are from or in country music, like Toby Keith, Reba McEntire, Carrie, of course. So I think growing up on like red dirt 90s country, I was like hooked. I was like, okay,
Right.
music is great, love it. And so I think that influenced my early years. And then when I was 12, I started writing songs. Definitely a big Taylor Swift influence from the beginning. I mean, her debut album, I was like 12 years old. And I was like, wait, if she can write songs and sing at the same time, sign me up. I'm ready to do that. So I started writing my own songs. And then I think once I moved to Nashville, I realized, okay, I kind of like a little bit of a beat. I kind of like pocketing or maybe like saying things with different phrases or phrasing things differently. And so I think my sound really developed in Nashville, but I think my roots are very
Mm.
Oklahoma 90s country. And so I'm kind of a blend of both.
I
I
love
would,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's good to balance those two influences too, and I think well, it brings you joy because you're getting to play the music that you grew up listening to, and it's like your own spin on it or your own influence style from it. I think that's really important. Um, who like I'm always curious about that first. I don't know if you can even remember, but like that first moment of taking a thing like singing or performing in any way, I feel like for a lot of people it's like a protected thing for you. It
Mhm.
starts as something that brings you maybe a lot of joy, singing to yourself in the shower, singing to yourself as you walk to school, whatever it is, writing lyrics, but you kind of hide that piece of you until you have the confidence to put it forward, or you're just at the point where you're like, I have to do this. I have to get
Yeah.
this off my chest. I have to know if I can do this or not. What walk me through that like first moment where you're like, I'm gonna get on a stage and sing, whether it was a karaoke or an actual show, whatever it was, but I want to hear that.
So I wish I could do karaoke. I feel like that's when I'm most shy,
Oh,
believe it.
really? That's so funny.
Oh, I can't do it. Maybe if I'm like,
Couple drinks in or something. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
otherwise, like I will not do karaoke. I don't know why. It's like, oh, so shy. But so I actually grew up, I've always been a ham. I feel like I got more shy the older I got, but when I was young, I was always like just acting out. I was just doing the absolute most. I started out as a clogger, believe it or not. I was a big clogger
Okay.
in the Okie Stompers in Oklahoma, just traveling, dancing, and
I love that.
that. Like it's so great. There's pictures somewhere that will never see the light of day, but
I was gonna say,
I
well, pop them up.
know that. But my dance teacher was like, Mom and Dad, she's acting out. She keeps singing. Like maybe we should get her in singing lessons. And they're like, sure. Started singing, realized I didn't suck. I wasn't terrible. I was probably not great when I was a little kid, but I loved singing from that point on. I started doing like competitions in Oklahoma, like pageants, like little things here and there. And then I sang any chance I got. We have like a little Oklahoma version of the Grand Ole Opry, CMSA, and so I would sing that like twice a week. I
Oh,
would
cool.
see it just like throwing myself out there. It was a lot of covers, obviously, but just kind of getting out in front of anyone that would listen. I had the most confidence, and then obviously once you get like 15 on, you're like the confidence kind of dwindles a little bit. But
Yeah.
I feel like for me, the songwriting part has always been kind of like the I'm gonna hold it in and like I'm protective over these songs and I feel like singing has always been something I can do in front of an audience, but songwriting, you want to protect a song, like maybe you're
Mm,
super passionate about it, not sure
right.
to be received to the audience.
Yeah,
Um,
you want because it's so hard to like you have an idea in your head of like this is good and then you it's the fear of but what if they don't think it's good? And
yes.
that's the biggest killer of creativity is
Yeah.
there's a book that I talk about ad nauseum. My listeners are probably tired of me talking about it, but I won't stop.
Well,
It's
I
called
would,
it's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And if you
yeah,
can get past all the swear words,
yeah. No,
it's so
it's
good.
so good. Yeah.
Have
I
you
love
read it?
I did when I was a couple years ago.
Okay, cool,
I think
cool.
my mom had bought it for me, despite the F word being on it,
Yeah,
'cause
yeah,
it's vanilla, but yeah, it's really good. But it's something that you have to kind of work your way out of because you can really get in like a mental block, especially there's songs that are so passionate. I'm so passionate about. They're maybe super personal
yeah.
and playing it for a round for the first time and you're like, are they going to connect to it or is it going to go, are they going to
Yeah.
hate it? And it just, it causes like a little ball of anxiety, but it's the music biz. Like you got to get out there or, you're never going to get heard. So it's something you have to, work on.
Yeah. And you have to also realize that like in addition to not giving a fuck what other people think, it's also about thinking not too highly of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like the you part of you goes, I want to protect this because I don't want people to think that it's dumb. And then once you get over the thought process that like they're not going to think that it's dumb. And if they do, you don't care. And that's the first level of like not giving a fuck. But then the
Yeah.
second tier of that, I think, is you saying, why do I think that people would give a fuck?
Yeah.
Like, why am I thinking that I'm so special that everyone, the second I do something embarrassing, everyone's going to notice and they're all going to jump? No, everyone's thinking about themselves. Everyone is in their own head. That's it.
Yeah.
So you just do what makes you happy, and then you just do the next thing, do the next thing, do the next thing, put it behind you, put it behind you. It's like the easiest. Anytime I create, I release it. Everyone's like, Johnny, how do you do so many podcasts? I'm like, I just do it and then I release it and I do another one and I release it and I don't think about it because it's like if I think about it too long, I'd never release an episode.
Hmm. I think honestly, that's what happened with me for a while. I think COVID, obviously, everyone's went through their own shit, depression, all the things. But I really got into my head probably like 2020, 2021. And I was like, I've got all of these songs I'm just sitting on, but like nobody's going to like them. Why am I releasing music? And I just got so deep in that I didn't release for a couple years. And
Uh,
I focused heavy on, I've always been a songwriter that's never left me. So I was writing a lot with, other artists and songwriters and just focusing on the songwriting that I kind of like lost myself with the artistry. And so I think with Nascar track, it's kind of my first song back out there
cool.
um, after getting over that hump.
Yeah, you're like just put it out. Let's do it. Because
I,
like that what you're talking about too about how you're like, well, I was still, writing for other people. I think someone has coined this term. It's not me, but it's called like shadow jobs or shadow passions or something like that, where you're protecting your ego because you're like, well, I technically I'm doing the thing that I want to do, but it's for somebody else's gain. And
yeah,
like you make yourself okay with it because like you're getting paid. That's always great. You're still doing music. That's great too because we're in there. But I think we can cut ourselves too short sometimes in that and not give yourself enough credit that you are also capable of having someone write for you or
mm,
like come into a writing room and want to push you forwards. Oftentimes we're too like when we get in that scared zone, we're too easily like, well, I'll put myself aside so that I can just help these other people because then there's no worry of me getting hurt or not getting what I want out of something. If something
yeah,
bad happens to them, it happened to them, so it's okay.
yeah. I had to take a hard look in the mirror after a while. I was like, okay, I'm writing. I'm still, doing the music thing. I'm doing what my parents, moved me to Nashville for, but I'm not really fulfilling my full passion, right? Like I've always been a writer, but I'm not fully fulfilled unless I'm the one also telling the story, right? Of the songs that
Yeah.
I. So I got really, really real with myself and was like, okay, let's get back on the horse, saddle up, let's get it going. And we're back.
So country. Get
I
back
see,
on the horse.
yeah.
It's like
So
it bleeds out of you.
I well, I'm also like an open book, but I say the most random things. And I
Yeah.
what? Saddle what horse? You don't
Yeah.
have a horse.
I'll
So
say
we're back.
I'll say some like catchphrases too, and like my girlfriend's like, "What? Where did you like?" I've never heard that. She grew up in like the city of Toronto, so there's like
Uh-huh.
a whole different slang in Toronto that's like this interesting mix of like Caribbean and like all of these different cultures have sort of
Oh wow.
formed. It's called the Toronto accent, and
Uh-huh.
they've formed their own like way of speaking. And then I grew up in like Ontario and sort of country area in Ontario, and we have our own way of speaking of like, and it blows your mind because you're it's like we're 4 hours apart, like it shouldn't be
How did
that different.
that?
But it like it is, and like I hear my brother talk and I'm like, who, he's even more country than I am, and I'm
You're like,
like, how are you talking like this, like we
where
live
are you
in Canada.
from? Not from the same family. What?
Yeah. We're same family and we talk differently. So it's really interesting how there's differences in that regard.
Yeah.
Another one question I wanted to ask you is you said that you want to connect with your fans in a real way, but what's like a message or theme that you hope that your fans like take away from your music? Like what's that like for you?
I really want my fans to listen to it and put themselves in my song, right? I'm writing from real experiences, but I want them to find a piece of themselves in my music. I want them to be able to relate to that. I think musically, sonically, I want it to be a song that they, regardless if it's a sad song, sonically, I want them to still be like, okay, I can roll my windows down and
Right.
vibe song. I want them to find a piece of themselves, find something, whether it's a lyric or the vibe, even that they relate to, that they can be like, oh, okay, I see why she wrote this. I love this song. This vibe is great. Windows down, driving down that 2 lane. So I really just want them to take away finding something to relate to, no matter what it is about my music.
I love that. And especially with music too, there is everybody has their own interpretations when it comes to songs. It's so interesting talking to people about certain songs and they just take it a completely different way than maybe even the artist had intended. Like, is that something you're okay with if somebody came up to you and they're like, "Oh, I love the NASCAR track song," and you maybe wrote it about like reminiscing about an ex and they're like, "Oh, it reminds me of whatever came to mind for them."
No, I love that. That's exactly what I hope. I'm writing it about something super specific, but I want it to still be broad enough that they can say, "Oh, this reminded me about so and so," or "It reminded me about NASCAR." I love.
Yeah.
Hey, great. Me
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
I'm a NASCAR fan now, so
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with that.
Just watching guys take left turns all day.
I mean, so
I don't understand NASCAR at all.
I know that they drive really fast cars,
Yeah.
really hard job. I don't know how they don't wreck and hit the car behind them. Yeah, that's
The
the
wall is insane. Like the track that they're driving on, like it's if you want to learn about physics, go to a NASCAR show because you're gonna see it's mind-boggling.
so I have a NASCAR track video coming out in a
Cool.
couple weeks, but we filmed it at the Nashville Super Speedway. It's like Nashville's version of NASCAR. Not quite, super speedway, but really cool. I got to be the only one there with my videographer. She's amazing. But yeah, it's a straight track, and then you go to the corners, and I had to like really make sure I was able to walk down it because it's steep.
Yeah.
Mind blown.
You're
They,
like, wait, what? It doesn't look like that on TV.
it was crazy. And
Yeah.
just the way that the cars are so close together. Yeah,
Oh my
mind
God,
blown.
yeah. Especially like at least with NASCAR, they have sort of like roll cages in
Mhm.
there, but like Formula One seems insane because it's
Yeah.
just the flat car. They're even lower to the road and they're kind of like sticking out of the car, like they're open, they're out there. So if you roll, oof, scary business to be in for sure.
Well, I just know how I drive. And so, yeah, They're some
Like
of the
this.
most talented drivers. I'm like,
Are you up close to the steering wheel?
no, I'm the opposite, which is so crazy.
Oh, really?
I feel like I'm
Okay.
all for a girl, so I will kind of like I'm leaning back. I'm enjoying
Yeah,
the.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I got my music on. I feel
Yeah,
cool.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Bailey, there's one question that I always ask all my guests. It's the last question of the podcast. It's essentially, what advice would you give to your younger self? Oh, my cat's gonna make an appearance. The tail going by. She gets curious sometimes. Yeah, just a tail passing by, the Loch Ness monster tail.
Uh,
The
when
question is essentially, what advice would you give to your younger self? But I like adding some context to it. So I
I,
want you to think of you at 15, which is interesting because that's right when you moved to Nashville. And the phone rings and it's you now on the other end, and you can give your younger self a piece of advice. It's not going to change your life now in any way, but you might impact hers. What do you say to your 15-year-old self?
I would say trust yourself and trust the timing. When I was 15, I definitely was like, I'm going to get signed immediately. I went to college at Belmont and was like, I'm going to get a publishing deal immediately. Why is this not happening for me? And it caused me so much stress. In the same time of trust yourself, there's a lot of opinions. We've all got one, but trust yourself, trust that you're writing the music you want to write, trust that you're creating the sound you want, and everything else will fall into line. Be authentic to yourself. Do not listen to maybe what other people think you should write and sound like. Trust yourself that you know yourself best, you know your sound best. Trust the timing that everything's going to happen when it's supposed to. And if you don't get signed right away, you don't maybe get a deal or whatever, trust that it's going to happen when it's supposed to, and not, be so upset that it didn't happen maybe when you thought it would in your timeline.
That's great advice because I think life can feel like this sort of linear journey where you're like, I do this and then I do that and then this comes and then this. And the entertainment world is not like that. It can all happen at once and then there can be nothing for years and then it can all happen once again. And it just like, it's a whirlwind for sure.
It could either be like really fast or the slowest burn.
Yeah.
So be prepared for that slow burn if it happens, and don't get discouraged. Maybe you just need a little more, a little more time.
Yeah, maybe you're just the pace car in a NASCAR race, and then
I hope
I'm trying to give as many references as I can.
I hope I'm not pace car.
Go to baileymorganmusic.com for I'm guessing all upcoming shows, all your social media, all your music is on this website here. And
Mhm.
it's at Bailey Morgan Music as well on Instagram, and I'm sure many other platforms, as we all have to be on everything as a creator.
I can't
But
keep up.
yeah, I know. There's like so many new ones. There's Blue Sky became a new one, and I'm like, I'm not getting on another app. I'm done.
I don't have enough storage for any
Yeah,
more.
yeah, literally
I'm
that.
gonna be on the ones I'm on.
Yeah.
Find on
My
those.
Spotify takes up
Mine
80% of my phone storage because I just download so much music.
are probably like all selfies and videos,
Okay.
like stupid stuff, or yeah,
Oh, great.
yeah.
Lily, it was so nice to meet you. Thanks for making the time to come on the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Of course, I'll send this to you when it's out. It'll probably be later in May, but I'll shoot you the link.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you so
All
much.
right, no problem. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.